and deciding when they can eat and when they can't. I mean, they treat everything.
Let me get a few scenes up here that I'd like to add to this. Okay, y'all ready? And I got to find a video. Oh my God, there was a video that showed up over on X that I just thought was absolutely freaking hilarious. So I can upload a video. No, probably not. Back. Oh, I'll just go here. I'm going to add one more scene to this. And I want to pull in another little video clip. That one. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. This is Cassandra Williamson, and I am coming to you from Mudlick Road in Hardy, Pike County, Kentucky. Yes, this is the home of the Trans-Terrorist Training Camp up here. That's purely satire, just so y'all know that, okay? Because the only way you can push back against a lot of the stupidity that's out there in the country right now is kind of play the game with them. So when Ken Paxton came out yesterday and said that, or the day before, said that he was going to begin initiating the process of infiltrating trans and Antifa organizations and cells in Texas, well, there's really only one way you can push back against that. Why would he do that in public? Why would he make such a statement in public for that? Well, it's political theater is all it was. Because if you were really serious about wanting to do something like that, you wouldn't broadcast it to the world. You would just get ready and go do it. So why would you make a political statement, a political theater out of this kind of statement? Well, obviously, it's because he's appealing to various groups in the state of Texas and around the U.S. He's appealing to the right base, the right side in Texas. You know, he's appealing to that side, but he's also appealing to the people who support Trump on the federal level. And he's also appealing to the Trump White House and the Trump leadership there, and Kristi Noem and all these different people, you know, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Tom Homan. He's appealing to all of them. He's showing them that he is standing with them by making such political theater out of the lives of transgender Americans. And that's really all he's doing. It's political theater designed to let people know that he's doing something. It's performative. And all that talk about being opposed to DEI, well, performativity actually came from concepts in DEI. And I need to stop using the phrase, that kind of turn of phrase. It's not DEI, it's diversity and equity and inclusion. Whenever you break that down and you start asking people what they actually support, do they understand what diversity is? And sure, we understand that. I can look down the street and see that we got a lot of people who are all kinds of different faiths, all kinds of different races and ethnicities. And we've got all kinds of different people with sexual orientation, gender identity. They all live in the communities around here. So you know what diversity is. Equity, you know what that is too. That's an attempt to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to succeed, that roadblocks are not thrown up in the way for them to do so. You know, things like back in the day, redlining and all that kind of stuff, or burning down whole communities because the white population didn't like them, like, you know, burning down Greenwood and near Tulsa back in, what, 1921 or 2, somewhere around there. You know, part of American history that you would not know. So anyway, yeah, a lot of this stuff is performative. And then you got the inclusion part in the diversity, equity, inclusion. And look, I don't know of anyone who would deny access to equitable treatment with health care because they look different. sound different, believe different, had an emergency, something happened on their job or something happened in their home or they're about to have a baby, but you're going to deny them the emergency care they need because they are an immigrant? So much for that Christian faith you lean on, right? Exactly right. So much for that kind of crap that you lean on. It makes absolute zip sense. If somebody comes in and needing help and you turn your back on them, guess who you're emulating? It certainly was not Jesus. Maybe need to reevaluate what you're doing. So with all this stuff going on, I just sent an email to everyone. I just sent an email to everyone asking for, I'm looking to, let me see. Let me go over here to my email list. Maybe it populated over here on mine too. Fundrise, no, not there. Let's go to a different email address. Why am I not on there? I don't know. That's a good question. Anyway, so emails. Bum, 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 bum. So I just sent an email out. It went to everybody, a bunch of people. If you're not getting emails from me, you need to make sure you sign up for them because, I try to throw a little humor in there. I try to say things like, I don't know, maybe it's important that we go ahead and figure out why they're working so hard to hide and to obfuscate the Epstein files. I'd love to see the unredacted Epstein files. I don't care who's on it. If there's some people on there who are in positions of power and authority right now, and they were doing crazy shit back then, they don't need to be in a position of power and authority. I don't care if it's left, right, center, whoever it is, it needs to be dealt with rather than hiding. It makes you think all these efforts to hide it and try to convince people that it's not a real issue, that it's such a real issue that the people in power presently don't want you to know it's such a big deal. And I'm talking about even Democrats and Republicans in the House and Senate, as well as in the White House. Something's going on. There's a lot of very powerful people stuck on that list, and they come in all kinds of political shades. They really do. Oh my, they are fighting hard to keep that thing from going public, aren't they? Well, they're doing everything they can to distract you and to get your mind off of those kind of things and to put your focus somewhere else. Now, the things they talk about are real issues, like the issue right now with getting some kind of a peace deal going through with Israel and Hamas. Personally, I've got really strong opinions on this one. Hamas is a terrorist organization whose stated goal has been the complete destruction of Israel. It's a religious thing for them. Right now, by giving them a break, sure, we're saving lives there in Gaza, absolutely. But that's because they hide behind civilians, because they know that we have sympathies for people who are getting killed and hurt and maimed and destroyed, as we all should have those sympathies for. But Hamas is playing on that, and they want a reprieve. They need a break so they can regroup and reorganize and re-strengthen, and this peace deal gives them that out. Unless there is a complete removal of the power that's behind and underpinning Hamas in Israel and in Gaza, this peace deal is bogus. That's my opinion. It might make the Trump White House look good because they're able to go around and say, we brokered a deal between Gaza or between Hamas and Israel. But all you really did was give them an opportunity to regroup and re-strengthen, because the ideology that drives their hatred of Israel will not go away because you sign a piece of paper with them. As a matter of fact, if you've read the Quran, you know what it says. And you know what it says in there? You can do or say anything you want to say to people they consider to be infidels, because you aren't obligated to support or defend it or even to believe what it is you say. You can lie, cheat, and steal with them, but just not with a fellow Muslim. It's in there. You can write anything you want on that piece of paper, and they will sign it just to get the time so they can come back in and blow your brains out later. They want Israel gone. In my opinion, Hamas needs to be destroyed. An ideology that calls for the complete destruction of another group of human beings has no business being in positions of power. Now, how does this tie back to what I was just saying about trying to recruit some people to stand up for us down in Texas to oppose Ken Paxton and his stupid little thing about infiltrating trans terrorist organizations? For decades, they have been dehumanizing and demonizing trans people in this country over on the far right. And then the moment that somebody over on the left says, well, maybe we want to just, we're going to take away the humanity of the people out there on the front lines with ICE. We're going to let everybody know who they are and dox them and all that kind of stuff. And I don't agree with any of that kind of stuff, by the way. I do not agree with. I do not support that. I find that to be reprehensible and completely un-American. But you're right to be able to, you can go do these things as long as you don't cause the harm or destruction to another human being. So what's happening? What's the correlation between why I say that Hamas has only one goal? That's the complete destruction of Israel and the Israeli people. It goes back 3,000 freaking years. The hatred, the animosity. You cannot placate that kind of thing and expect them to sign a piece of paper that means absolute squat and abide by it. You might get a couple of years of reprieve. You might get a couple of months, but all we're going to be doing is, entrenching themselves further into the civilian population so they're hard to identify within that population and then rebuild their weapons and munitions caches so they can go do the same thing again. So when Ken Paxton and Fox News and others dehumanize transgender Americans and have been doing it for decades, and then the moment that a trans person gets hurt or put into a position of where they're actually trying to survive, but they do something stupid, which I will call out every moment of the day. But if you're going to go out there and you're going to attack an ICE person because you think you've dehumanized them enough where you can justify their harm, and that's the felling on the left and the felling on the right. But I'm going to tell you, the same kind of dehumanizing is exactly what Hamas believes of Israel. They don't consider them to be worthy of life. They don't consider them to be worthy of the word of God that they are supposed to be the chosen for, because Hamas believes they failed. They did not live up their responsibility to being the chosen people of God. So any agreement that's made between Hamas, any agreement that's made between Ken Paxton or Fox News to stop dehumanizing another group of people, well, it doesn't have legs to stand on. It's just goofy, crazy, folks. Oh my God, where am I going with this? Yeah, I'm gonna let the prisoners handed over. They have no bargaining tool, though. That might be true, Jamie. Have they actually handed them over? I haven't seen that part of it yet. If they have, that's great. I'm glad to get the hostages back. It doesn't matter. If we give to them an opportunity to rebuild, and we do not remove them completely from power and authority in Gaza, they have got to be totally dismantled. I mean, completely. And then their whole ideology scattered to the winds of the earth. They cannot be allowed to get back in there and rebuild that kind of ideological thinking, that kind of base, that kind of power in Gaza, or even in Yemen, or even in Iran. Anytime, every time we have ideological purity, or we have theocratic fascism, like is what's going on over there in Iran with the Shia theocracy, anytime you have those imposed on a country, like some people in the United States want to impose upon us, this ultra far right Christian nationalism that demands that Christian faith, a particular version that certain people like, gets to decide whether laws are right, whether people are good, whether you should vote, how you should build your family, what that family looks like. That's what they're doing in Iran. That's what the Christian nationalists want over here for the United States. You can't let them have power. And whenever you get an opportunity to take it from them, we should. Lord, I don't even know how I got on all of that stuff. I was just taking off. It started out by talking about my newsletter that I just sent out this morning. I'm looking to hire, now this is satire, folks, looking to hire a few trans terrorists to help me create a cell down there in Texas and other states so that we can push back against the ignorance that's coming out of Ken Paxton's office. So what we do is, this is what I see happening. They want to infiltrate these trans terrorist organizations. Well, let's go ahead and declare ourselves to be a trans terrorist organization. Put the big S at the end of it, says satire kind of thing. So they don't actually think we're serious about the harming anybody. We have no wish to harm anyone. We serve for all Americans. And that's a true statement, folks. Probably backwards to you, isn't it? Anyway, I'll turn around like that. Does that help? Does that work? No. I serve for all Americans, okay? Look, we're going to have to turn the tables on these people like Ken Paxton. We're going to have to turn the tables on Stephen Miller. You got to turn the table on, Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. You got to turn the tables on these people. You're not going to be able to win it by any kind of logical or rational thing because they don't give a flying F about it. Any of the science, they claim they know it. I'm on these long-winded conversations over on X, people saying all kinds of crap out there and challenging me on who I am and everything like that. But the craziest thing, the people who say that I'm pretending to be, which I am not, who I am. I'm not pretend. There's no pretense here. This is not performative. I'm not a cross-dresser. They claimed all that crap over there too. I've never been, never will be. That's something you can put on in the morning and take off at night, or put on at midnight and take off at 1 a.m. No, that's not me. No. Who I am is 24/7 me, around the clock, folks. And I'm fine with that. And people are going, but are you a trans person? Look, I said, I use the label trans because the community uses it, and that's how I can associate with people. But that's not who I am. I'm not in the process of transitioning to anything. I've already completed that process, folks. I am not about to change any of the thing that I have become, because I am who I know I am and have always been. And you got these idiots over there going, it's just man and woman. It's just man and woman. It's just man and woman. And that's an absolute value. And this is what I told to some people. I said, look, if you're going to tell me that I need to adhere to Biology 101 and that there is only an absolute distinction between men and women and there are no other variables associated with that, well, you're not talking science. You're talking ideology. That's your ideological position, which happens to be full of shit. Oh, my God. So, yes, I'm looking for a few strong, outspoken people who can go into these communities, into these states, and go in there and get into the face of your Secretary of State's office and go say, look, what do I need to register as a trans terrorist? I want to go ahead and get my organization registered and set up here in the state because, look, if you're going to claim that we are a threat to people, and if you're going to claim that there is a reason to infiltrate us, well, I'm just going to put ourselves right out here in the middle of the street and say, come on. As a matter of fact, why don't you join with us? You can be an honorary member of the trans terrorist cell. Ken Paxton, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, hey, Pam, or even President Trump. You want to be an honorary member of a trans terrorist cell, President Trump? Come on in. Come on over. Andy, I don't know how to pronounce your last name. Nick, something like that. The people who were going out there, who have gone out there and put themselves in positions where they knew they would be assaulted, and they stood there and just didn't do a thing about it. They let people do those things to them so they could get it on tape, on video, to be recorded. I watched a clip of Andy when he went to Portland. And that young kid, he could have gotten away from all of that stuff. But no, he stood there and let them cover him up and all kinds of stuff, and he's protecting himself. They were throwing things at him and all that kind of stuff. But he put himself there. He allowed those things to happen. He did not even try to get away from it. He stayed right there. So it would all be filmed and videoed so that he could use it against the protesters. Jack Posobiec does exactly the same shit. He and I have gotten into a few conversations over on Twitter. It's Jack Posobo or Poso or whatever over there, but he's on there. These people are agitators. These people are looking for a way to get you to trip up so they can film it, video it, put it out there, and then get to be able to sit down at a round table with the president on trans and Antifa terrorists. They did say one thing that I thought was actually correct. They said Antifa's been around since at least the 1920s. You know why it's been around since the 1920s? You know what? You know why it was around since the 1920s? It originated in Italy. You know why? There were people who did not want Benito Mussolini as their leader, authoritarian fascist leader. So these were anti-fascist opposed to Benito Mussolini. So the way it was presented yesterday, it made it sound like there was a bad thing. I'm going, no. I would gladly have joined an anti-fascist group right then, wouldn't you? Or I mean, most people would. Anyway, I've gone on and on and on, and I still have quite a few things I need to do today. To give you a rundown on the happenings here in the holler on Mudlick Road, well, I've got to take my sister to the doctor this afternoon. She needs to follow up on some scopes, endoscopy and colonoscopy and things like that occurred several months ago, but she's still having some issues, and I've got to make sure that she's taken care of with that. I have to be there at 1:30, which would mean I've got to leave at about 15 minutes or so. My brother is here. We'll be here with Mom, watching her all while I'm gone. The trans terrorist part of it, well, when I do get back, I've got to help my brother again. He's doing some work around the outside of the home. It's a sawmill lumber type of wood that's being put up here. He stains it and he burns it, and it's really very rustic looking. As a matter of fact, if you go out on the front porch, it's almost like being on the front porch of a Cracker Barrel with the swings, with the rocking chairs. The only difference is there is no novelty store in the front. There's plenty of room for people to come and sit and rock, though. Pam and Ken Paxton, you can come right up here. I mean, I did ask Ken Paxton. I do want to know if I need to go ahead and register with the state of Texas, since I am a for-profit limited liability corporation here in Kentucky. Do I need to register in Texas as a foreign corporation? Because when you do work in other states, you're supposed to register as a foreign corporation. Do I need to go ahead and get one of those agents in state so that I can actually do that? Do we need to find people who can stand up and say, this is the address in the state of Texas for this trans terrorist cell? And any other state out there that wants to boil that kind of BS crap on us. Just play into it and just lean into it as heavily as we can without violence. You go violent route, I go get the wagon that takes you to jail.